Hello, this is Alexandra Levine live with the America's Pulse Network. You are all in tonight with me, Alexandra Levine. We have some major breaking news. This happened last night near the Baltimore Harbor. A cargo ship just exploded in the Baltimore Harbor in Maryland. This was last night at 6:30 p.m. Thank God no crew died. But this reminded everyone of the Francis Scott Key Memorial Bridge. That bridge collapsed at 1:30 in the morning almost 17 months ago. Why are cargo ships continuing to explode near the Baltimore Harbor? Maybe this is a sign that the bridge needs to be rebuilt. Maybe this is a sign to the moron Governor Wes Moore that the bridge needs to start getting rebuilt. And we have actually the first slide for that. We'll show that right now. Yep, this is breaking. Cargo ship has just exploded. This was last night at 6:38 p.m. in the Baltimore Harbor, Maryland. You can actually see the bridge which collapsed after being rammed by a ship last year. There's actually real life video footage of this. Cause and casualties currently unknown. Pray for any innocent crew members, but I can confirm that all 23 crew members were safe. Nothing happened to them. And then we have the second slide where it says BCFD. The BCFD Engine 57. Earlier, Engine 57 responded to Fort Armistead Park for the ship explosion. Along with FRB 1 and 2 and the Coast Guard, we noted a 750-inch coal ship that exploded well off the coast. So this was a ship that had coal in there. All 23 souls on board, which I confirmed were okay. And the ship was being diverted out to sea to anchor and check for more damage. This is an atrocity again. And again, I say, why are these ships going and exploding into the Baltimore Harbor? This is insane. This is insane. Again, Governor Wes Moore, he just now took away the debris from the old bridge, the old Francis Scott Key Memorial Bridge. He has a picture of what the new bridge is going to look like, but he has done nothing, absolutely nothing to start the rebuild. I can tell you that I'm working with Delegate Bob Long, elected official Tim Fazenmaker, candidate for Baltimore County Executive Kim Stansberry on this, and many others to start the rebuilding of this bridge. I've also contacted the Secretary of Transportation, Sean Duffy, to personally come to Maryland to take a look and to say, hey, this bridge needs to be rebuilt, because without the bridge, the traffic is atrocious. Mass transportation issues are happening, and people have lost their jobs. People can't go to work. They have to work remotely. This affects Amazon. This affects Trade Point Atlantic. This affects a lot of big businesses in the Baltimore area. The Francis Scott Key Memorial Bridge goes from Pasadena, which is Anne Arundel County, to Baltimore County. In order for people to go to Baltimore County now, they have to go around to the city. And we know the city is horrible. And the trucks, they have to go through the tunnels, the 895 Harbor Tunnel and many other tunnels. And it's insane. It used to take me 52 minutes to get to Dundalk. Now it takes me an hour and a half to 2 hours because there is no bridge. This bridge needs to be rebuilt, and it needs to go fast so we, the people, can live our lives better and not have to deal with the massive traffic that goes on the I-695 corridor. Another breaking news. This is very important. Another assassination attempt against President Trump's life. A crazy woman who traveled from New York to D.C. She wrote expletives and horrible things on her Facebook and X. That's how people were able to detect her. But they were able to find her out and seek her out. And she's been taken into custody. And of course, Judge Jeanine, who's the U.S. Attorney to D.C., she will be prosecuting to this woman to the fullest extent of the law. This woman is not going to be able to get away with her threats to the president. Again, this is insane. This is asinine. Why people are continuing to try to cause havoc to President Trump and try to hurt him. Judge Jeanine will not allow this. We must protect the President of the United States. We must protect the First Lady and his children. We must protect anybody that is close to the president. So again, if you see something, say something. If you see anything on X or Facebook, anybody saying that they want to hurt the president or anybody attempting to hurt the president, you must report it to Judge Jeanine, to ICE, to DHS, to the State Department, to the DOJ. Again, this will not go without repercussions. You can't just say you're going to hurt the president, nothing happens to you. President Trump is one of the most popular presidents. He's the head of the Republican Party. This is at least the third or fourth attempted assassination on his life. And this will not go untouched and not go untreated. And the third breaking news, which is very important, an explosion today, this morning, caught on camera in Wilmington, North Carolina, near Rocks Beach town, after a hit-and-run driver hits a gas lane near a veterinarian office. Firefighters were injured. A driver veered off the road and ruptured a gas lane. Thank God that the people inside the veterinary office weren't hurt, but firefighters were injured. Thank God firefighters weren't injured to the point where they're dead, but there are firefighters that have second to third degree burns. Again, an explosion caught on camera in Rocks Beach town near Wilmington, North Carolina, after a moronic driver, and we don't know what his motive was. Maybe he was out to kill people. We don't know. That's an assumption, speculation. But he did a hit and run, thinking that he could just get out of the car and run and not get caught. Well, thank God that they caught him. And he's in custody right now. And of course, they're trying to figure out the motive for this. But these are three big things that happened. Cargo ship exploded in Baltimore, another assassination attempt on President Trump's life, and a driver veered off the road and ruptured a gas lane in Wilmington, North Carolina. We will keep you posted on all three of those breaking news. And now we go into segment one. Segment one starts with, will Zelensky play ball? Well, President Trump had a miraculous and amazing meeting with Zelensky and EO, European leaders, yesterday. They all came to the Oval Office, and it was a phenomenal meeting. Not what the fake news media and the mainstream media called it out. The fake news media and the mainstream media said it was a terrible meeting, nothing was accomplished, and all that. It was even such a good meeting that Vladimir Zelensky, which is really Vlad in Ukrainian, in Russian, he decided to wear a suit. Not a traditional suit. He didn't have a tie. He put on a black military jacket, but he didn't dress like he was going into war. He didn't wear cargo pants like he did last time. There was no arguments. He actually thanked President Trump for his support. He thanked President Trump for bringing everybody together. He thanked President Trump for peace. And maybe finally, we can end this war. President Trump is being the mediator here, but he is pushing and encouraging Zelensky and Putin to come to the table to have a bilateral talk first. And then after the bilateral talk, President Trump will intervene in a trilateral talk, and he will be there on the phone with Putin and Zelensky. As you know, President Trump, he had a wonderful summit in Alaska with Vladimir Putin. Things did get done. Vladimir Putin didn't call for a full ceasefire, but they're pushing every day towards peace. And also it'll depend how Putin talks to Zelensky and vice versa, and what Zelensky will say to Putin and so forth. Also is very interesting is that Zelensky had a letter from his wife directly to Melania Trump in regards to the missing children. This was also something that was copied because Melania Trump wrote a letter to Vladimir Putin about the missing children. So Zelensky took it upon himself to tell his wife, you better do exactly what Melania Trump did with Putin, and you better write a letter and give it to Melania Trump. And President Trump gave it to his wife directly. He didn't open it, but he said that his wife will talk to him about the letter. Melania Trump, the first lady, said that the letter was beautiful and the words were beautiful. But again, this was not original. Zelensky copied exactly what Melania Trump did and sent over to Mr. Putin. But let's put up the first slide. Possibility of peace, very important. President Trump said, and I paraphrase, I had a very good meeting with Zelensky, Emmanuel Macron from France, Stubb from Finland, Meloni from Italy, Starmer, Friedrich Merz from Germany, Ursula von der Leyen, who is the head of the European Union, and Mark Rutte, who's the head of NATO. These are all European leaders. And President Trump emphasized that Ukraine will not be a part of NATO. Thank you, President Trump, for that. And he also said that security guarantees for Ukraine, working on that. And like I said, he's emphasizing a meeting between Vladimir Putin and Zelensky. And then after that meeting is done, then he will have a trilateral speaking on the phone meeting with Putin and Zelensky. So the only person that could have brokered this deal is President Trump. And Secretary of State Marco Rubio said this on the Sunday shows. And he said it yesterday. He said there's nobody else that could have done this except for President Trump. J.D. Vance was in the room, and other cabinet members were in the room. Susie Summerall-Wiles, the chief of staff, was in the room. Dan Scavino Jr., the deputy chief of staff, was in the room. Deputy communications. The deputy chief of staff is my favorite Jew, Stephen Miller. Love that guy. He was there too. And I mean, President Trump is brokering deals left and right. It's very important that we have Zelensky and Putin on board to stop the war. Now, Zelensky is a warmonger. He gets his orders from George Soros and Obama and all these socialist, globalist, communist, Marxist elitists. I personally don't trust Zelensky. He's a snake, but he's also a puppet. And he has found a way to stay in power forever. He'll call elections when he feels fit, when he feels he doesn't want to serve Ukraine anymore. And even said to President Trump, we don't call elections during war. And Trump's like, really? Wow. And he's like, nope, we don't have elections during war. Interesting. Let me tell you something. Putin is not a puppet. Putin is not bought and paid for by anybody. Putin is actually one of the wealthiest men in the world. He just doesn't flash it. A lot of people are saying that Putin is winning this war here. A lot of people say that they want Putin to stop the killing. And Putin emphasized that if President Trump was in office in 2020, he would not have gone in. He would not have invaded Crimea. But because frickin' Biden was so weak and Obama was so weak, he had no choice. The United States did not have Putin's interest at heart. And Putin had to protect his people. He knows that Zelensky is a warmonger. He knows that Zelensky is a puppet for George Soros. Putin's not stupid. And the relationship that Putin has with Trump is very different than the relationship that Zelensky has with Trump. Putin is a very smart businessman. And Putin also said that he will not be involved with the Ayatollah Khomeini's in Iran, that he will allow Israel to take out the enemy. And he was cool with Israel bombing some of the biggest nuclear sites in Iran. He was cool with the United States using the B-52 and going in there and bombing one of the biggest nuclear capability facilities in Iran, because Russia has nuclear weapons too. They have a huge nuclear power as well. At the end of the day, it's all about power. But at the end of the day, it's about who puts their country first. And Putin is Russia first. Vladimir Zelensky is not Ukrainian first. He encourages Americans and other countries to come to his country and die in his country. He has crazy Americans that try to kill President Trump and recruit people to join Ukraine. Putin doesn't do that. Netanyahu doesn't do that at all. That's the difference between the men. That's the difference between experience. That's the difference between who loves their country and who just wants people to die on their country and in their soil. I told you, Prime Minister Netanyahu will not allow an American to die on Israeli soil. Vladimir Putin does not want Americans dying on his soil, but Zelensky doesn't give a crap. He will allow and he'll encourage Americans to die on his soil because he says, you're dying for a good cause. You're a martyr. That's the difference between the two men. Second slide, please. Just in, by my friend Gunther Eagleman. Reiterate again, Zelensky says, ready for bilateral meeting with Putin to end the war. Trump made this happen. That is correct. Again, if it wasn't for President Trump, this never would have happened. It's come to the point where Democrats such as Hillary Clinton and Democrats on Fox News have said, if President Trump can broker this peace agreement, I will nominate President Trump for a Nobel Peace Prize, and he should get a Nobel Peace Prize. Hillary Clinton, of all people, why are you kissing Trump's butt? But then Hillary Clinton said, I will nominate you for a Nobel Peace Prize, but we have to make sure that there's some accommodations for Ukraine here. There's always a but. But a lot of leaders, like in Azerbaijan and so forth, they've nominated President Trump for a Nobel Peace Prize for peace in the Middle East, how he wants to expand the Abraham Accords, and how he wants to end these wars. People said that he should get a Nobel Peace Prize for making sure that there's no war between India and Pakistan. President Trump should get at least 3 Nobel Peace Prizes. He's being nominated by so many different countries. But the question is, how liberal and socialist is the Nobel Peace Prize Committee? Let's see if they'll even give President Trump a Nobel Peace Prize. They gave Obama a Nobel Peace Prize, and we don't know what it was for. It was crap. Total crap. It's crazy. But if President Trump can broker in this peace, remember, this was not his war. This is Joe Biden's war. And President Trump emphasizes this every single day. And it is Joe Biden's war. It was Joe Biden's war. Joe Biden left President Trump with a lot of war and with inflation and so forth. And look at what President Trump has done. Look what he has done in such a short period of time. He hasn't even been there for a year, and he's kicking butt. That's why I love the man. I support the man. I endorse the man. Our network endorses the man and loves him. And my show endorses and supports the man. And I love the fact that Caroline Levitt ripped and reamed the mainstream media today on her press conference and said, there are people in this room that do not report fairly about the president, what's going on. And it shows, and they know it. I'm the new conservative me at the White House. I'm front and center. She gets my emails. She reports on what I email her because she knows that I spew out facts and that I do not criticize President Trump, especially for the goodness that he's doing for this country and for the world. Any reporter that is an opinion mouthpiece should not be a journalist, should not have White House press credentials. If you go in there and your intention is to combat President Trump for every good thing that he does, you should not be a reporter. You should not be at the White House. It is a privilege and a pleasure to be at the White House, to report fairly on the president, to report fairly on what he does by going in there and twisting and turning everything. That's not real journalism. That's opinion piece. That's a mouthpiece. You might as well have your own talk show. If you just want to be a mouthpiece, just be another version of The View. But you literally have pressed to get your White House press credentials, your hard press credentials, so you can go in there and criticize the president and report unfairly. And he's sick of it. Caroline Levitt is sick of it. We're all sick of it. Conservative media is sick of it. You give us journalists a bad name. Stop reporting unfairly and get with the damn program, or get out. Seriously, get out. The Caroline Levitts of not the Caroline Levitts, the Caitlin, whatever the hell her name is, the idiot on CNN, the MSNBC, MSDNC morons, get the hell out. Caitlin Collins, that's her name. The Caitlin Collins of the world, get the hell out of the White House, because all you do is cause havoc and you spew out rhetoric that is not credible and not factual. Your left-leaning politics is insane. Is it really worth it? Is the money really worth it to do this? Get your own talk show. Leave America if you hate the president of the United States. If you are a journalist in the White House and you hate America and you hate President Trump, you should leave. You should leave America. Go live with Macron. Go live with Zelensky. Have fun. Enjoy. Go live with the Taliban, Hezbollah, Hamas. Enjoy. You don't deserve to be in the White House. You don't deserve to be a journalist. It's insane. Everybody should be kissing President Trump's butt here. Everybody should be thanking him for the beauty that he's done, for the beautifulness that he's done so far in the White House. Let's go to slide 3, please. And President Trump has said, and I'll paraphrase this, I've settled 6 wars in 6 months. He's correct. I know exactly what I'm doing, and I don't need the advice of people who have been working on all of these conflicts for years and were never able to do a thing to stop them. They are stupid people. And he's right. There are stupid people. President Trump knows what's up. He's a smart man. He's a smart businessman. He knows how to get the job done. If he listened to these morons, he wouldn't get the job done. He's got the right people behind him, the right people in the cabinet to get the job done. I agree with him. He knows exactly what he's doing, and he doesn't need the advice of people who've been working on all these conflicts for years, and it's the same old, same old. Remember, new sheriff in town, new presidency in town. This is a new era. This is a new dawn. This is a new day. And again, one of the biggest issues is the problem with the missing children. There's a lot of missing children in Ukraine and in Russia. There's a lot of sex trafficking and human trafficking and child trafficking in Ukraine. Nobody talks about that, but there is. Vladimir Zelensky is to blame. He's done nothing to stop it. But again, First Lady Melania Trump wrote to Vladimir Putin personally. She thanked him for coming to Alaska, but she also said, please, Vladimir Putin, please, we need to end the war. We need to stop the killing of innocent children. We need to keep our children safe and find the missing children. And like I said, Zelensky copied what Melania Trump did, said to his wife, you better write a letter, a beautiful letter, just like Melania wrote to Putin, and give it to the first lady. I'll give it to President Trump to give it to the first lady. Again, nothing original. I'm telling you, Zelensky's wife wouldn't have done that unless Melania Trump wrote to Putin. But let's put up the last slide, at Real Donald Trump. He wrote on True Social. Ursula von der Leyen. Ursula von der Leyen is the distinguished and highly respected president of the European Commission, and I have been discussing the massive worldwide problem of missing children. This is likewise a big subject with my wife, Melania. It is a subject at the top of all lists, and the world will work together to solve it, hopefully bringing them home to their families. And that's what President Trump's about, bringing the hostages home, bringing families together, getting rid of the sex trafficking, the human trafficking, the child trafficking. This is something that's near and dear to Melania Trump's heart as she works on her Big Best campaign and other campaigns to combat the sex trafficking, the human trafficking, the child trafficking, but also to find the missing children. It's a huge problem, huge problem. As President Trump said, she's focused on this, laser focused on it, and he has become laser focused because of this. As I said before, Melania Trump wrote a letter to Vladimir Putin, and then Zelensky's wife copied her and wrote a letter directly to Melania, and Melania said it was a very beautiful letter that Zelensky's wife wrote to her. And President Trump was so cute. He's like, I gave it to Melania, but I kept it sealed. I didn't open it. I wouldn't do that. He's like, I don't want it open. I prefer not be open. And President Trump said today on Fox and Friends in the morning, because the man never stops working, he said, if I die and go to heaven today, I would be happy knowing that I brought peace to the Middle East and peace to Russia and Ukraine. He said, I could die and go to heaven. I hope I go to heaven, bringing peace to Russia and to Ukraine and to stop the war. Of course, we don't want President Trump to die anytime soon, but he says if he dies, he would like to die knowing that he caused that he brokered this peace. So we pray for President Trump. We pray that he brokers this peace. We pray for everybody involved. We pray, of course, for the children. We memorialize the fallen. And we hope and pray that Putin and Zelensky get on board and stop the war, that they listen to President Trump, that they follow his lead, that they take his lead, and that we have no more war between these two countries. And before we go on our break, don't forget our affiliate sponsor, rncstore.com/ALL. We'll put up that post. There we go. Richardson Nutritional Center, rncstore.com/ALL. You have to type in ALL to get the discount. It's a 10% off discount. Of course, the more you spend, the more you save. The Richardson Nutritional Center, he specializes in nutritional supplements to prevent cancer, to stop radical stage 4 cancer, also to help immunity, also to help with acid reflux, hemorrhoids, etc. Excuse me. I take them. I take the apricot seeds. I love them. I feel energized afterwards. I feel amazing. I've lost a lot of weight because of these supplements. So please, guys, go to rncstore.com/ALL. And don't forget, August 21st, which is coming up, it's this Thursday night, John Richardson will be my special guest on my show. He'll talk more about what he's been doing and more about his nutritional center. Again, go to rncstore.com/ALL. Put ALL in as the discount code. And coming back after the break, we have some great returning guests. Our friend Scott Willens, retired Lieutenant Colonel, and his mother, Deplorabella. And we will be right back with them after the break. Hi, I'm Alexandra Levine. I'm a professional opera singer, actress, TV, and radio personality. Since 2015, I've been a volunteer, a field director, and a campaign manager, learning the ins and outs of the political world. That's why I became a political consultant. My job is to lead you to victory with organization, structure, and the mindset of winning for your district or state. With my guidance and direction, I can keep you focused on the things that matter to the people and advise you on key issues that need to be addressed. If you're a serious candidate that is serious about winning, then book a consultation with me today. Go to levineconsulting.co. You'll be happy you did. Well, hello, everyone. Hello, this is Alexandra Levine live with the America's Pulse Network. We are back with two special guests. Scott Willens, retired Lieutenant Colonel. We'll put up his picture. Ta-da! Retired Lieutenant, U.S. Army Colonel, Dr. Scott Willens. And, of course, his wonderful his wonderful mom. Oh, my God, I'm so tired. His wonderful wife. I keep saying wife. His wonderful mom, Len Willens. Oh, my God, I need to do this whole segment again. Her name is Deplorabella. She's so cute. She's so amazing. And we'll bring them up right now. I am so sorry about that, guys. It's terrible.
That's okay. She looks young.
So. You can pass for your wife. No, just...
No.
Okay. So anyway, guys, thanks so much for coming back on the show. So as I talked about in segment one about Putin and Zelensky, Scott, I'm going to pivot to you. What do you think about what happened yesterday? What do you think is going to happen in the future?
Well, I wanted to touch on his comment about holding elections. And yeah, I think we're a little privileged here being at least somewhat isolated. We learned we're not fully isolated. But while, elections were held during War of 1812, the voter turnout and political focus was certainly affected. During the Civil War, many states faced logistical challenges. World War I was completely overseas, so that wasn't an issue. And elections during World War II were held in 1940, a year before Pearl Harbor. And in 1944, when things were wrapping up, some local elections have been postponed or altered due to military conflicts. If we can't even get our elections safe and reliable and trustworthy during peacetime, I gotta figure that it's probably not going to go well over in Ukraine, where the entire country is embroiled in war. Probably not the best nor the safest time to hold elections. So I'm going to give them a pass on that. But when it comes to, I was thrilled about the meetings. Some people are complaining on the left, why didn't Putin get the flyover, or why did Putin get the flyover and not Zelensky? The flyover wasn't to honor Putin; it was a display of strength, peace through strength. But of course, the left misses no opportunity to go after him. They would rather maintain war there and everywhere else, at the expense of having, as long as Trump fails, they don't care where the war is. They don't care about Ukraine. What they really want to do is distance themselves from their historical and current entrenchment in Marxist ideology and their love affair with the Soviet Union that goes back a century and the relics of the Soviet Union. Just like they claim that the political parties flipped in their racism, particularly in the South, quick to cite David Duke and neglect Robert KKK Byrd, they never flipped in their racism or anti-Semitism, and they never flipped in their love affair with Marxism and the Soviet Union. They're just trying to virtue signal and distance themselves visibly, but they really don't care. From Woodrow Wilson to FDR to LBJ to Carter, Obama, and Biden, there's no difference and no growth in that party. On the other hand, the woke right hates Ukraine and Zelensky, I think in part because Zelensky's Jewish. He's got a Jewish name, a Jewish identity, and that leadership, and because they're against war no matter what. They've learned nothing, that their isolationist stance is untenable. People like Rand Paul and his father, Ron, not only given the lessons of 9/11, but even after Pearl Harbor. America doesn't exist in a vacuum, and America first doesn't mean America only. Our inaction around the world, whether it's in Africa or South America, leads to a vacuum that our near-peer adversaries like Russia and China, or third world adversaries and terrorist non-state entities are quick to fill in the void, and that's to our complete geopolitical detriment. So totally agree with Putin that this would never have happened if Trump had been in office, as it did previously from 2017 to 2021. And I agree with Hillary that he should get the Nobel Prize. And I was laughing when I heard her say, I was like, I hope she eats those words and has to be the one to sign her name, maybe an auto pen for Trump to get a Nobel Peace
to keep herself
Prize.
out of jail. But I want to.
Does that answer your question?
I want to get your mom and him. So,
Yeah.
Mr. Deplorabella, so do you feel that, President Trump is really trying to broker this peace deal because we have given so much money to Ukraine? This was under Joe Biden, $350 billion to Ukraine. President Trump is like, we've hashtag had enough. Our country has been screwed because the European Union, they gave $100 billion to Ukraine, but we gave $350 billion. It should have been reversed. They should have given them more than us. So do you feel that President Trump really wants to broker this peace because we got so screwed by the Joe Biden administration by giving them $350 billion, and President Trump has said to Zelensky, we're done. We're not giving you any more money.
I'm going to jump around a bit. For one thing, not only did Trump inherit Biden's war when he told Putin, well, it's okay if you just take a minor incursion, but we're also cleaning up the mess of 300,000 missing children in our country, courtesy of the cartels, China and their fentanyl, Biden, Mayorkas, Kamala Harris, and their open border policies designed to replace us. So if we're talking about children, let's focus not only on the ones taken from Ukraine, which is horrific, but the ones missing in this country, being sex trafficked and used as slave labor. And let's talk about Starmer's support or failure to deal with Pakistani grooming gangs that for the last 30 years have been addicting, prostituting, and sometimes murdering working class British girls in his own country. Trump is not a pacifist. Pacifists are the freeloaders at the smorgasbord of philosophies. He is a man who believes that when you have to engage in using strength, you use it conclusively and to win, as he did in knocking out the ISIS caliphate, as he's done in a number of other circumstances, as he did in taking out Iran's nuclear capability, obliterating it, I believe was the word he used. Mm-hmm. Yes, so he will use force when it is necessary to save lives, and that is the correct stance for the leader of the free world and for a decent human being with a soul. He is not about to pour American troops around the world in an utter display of we are the policemen of the world. But he is the policeman of DC. And he is doing what needs to be done in this country and in the world when appeasers make it possible for people who are purveyors of terrorism to prevail. So he's doing very important work. What Scott said about Ukraine and elections. It is true, Ukraine has a long history of corruption. Mm-hmm. And Zelensky has his own pitfalls and problems to account for, but they pale in comparison with Russia. There has not been a real election in that country for a very long time. Putin has ruled for 25 years. They may change the titles, they may pretend to have elections, but we all know it's non-existent. And not only are our opposition parties outlawed, they are subjected to imprisonment, poison, radioactive elements, I suppose, in their soup, and they are murdered, such as was the case with Navalny and with many others.
Or nerve agent.
Right. So this is a KGB guy who thinks that the worst thing that ever happened in the world was the dissolution of the Soviet Union, and what he did in Ukraine, as bad as Ukraine is in many respects, was not deserved. I'm sure the Czech Republic was not a paragon of democracy when Chamberlain, again a Brit, yielded it, gave it over to the Germans in the hope of avoiding war. Doesn't work. When you deal with people who are aggressive, you have to know that. Trump always knew that Putin was an aggressor, and Putin always knew that Trump would stop him. And that is why, after the incursions in Georgia, Abkhazia, Ossetia, taking the Crimea under Biden, and doing the things that he did, now going into the Donbass, he would never have done when Trump was in. it is so refreshing as an American to see that our leader has the respect and the power of the force of his personality and his ability to do deals. It's phenomenal. Now, I don't know if a bilat will work. And I speculated earlier with my husband that they might meet in, I said Hungary, because Hungary has a Trumpian type government, and Budapest has a history of diplomatic power in Eastern and Middle Europe. So that might be the place. And then
That'd
I
be
heard
great.
I heard it referred to. But even if the bilateral doesn't go off for whatever reason, I think if they go straight to the trilateral, Trump is the only man that these two men will listen to and will not go crazy with. I mean, putting Zelensky and Putin in a room might be like putting, oh, I don't know, Jasmine Crockett and Jamal Bowman in a little room and having them fight out over something because they're thugs. That
Yeah.
might happen. But I think if Trump is there to caution both and to exact concessions from both, because that is what will be required. It's not a total.
Yeah, what we don't want is, and what Trump won't allow is a Neville Chamberlain peace in our time, nor will he allow an FDR selling out of
Correct.
Right.
Poland in that case, where you're giving too much unilateral concession and selling out of millions of people for an untenable and unlasting
Well, I want to
peace.
ask you, sorry.
We'll walk away.
Yeah.
I mean, Trump will walk away if it's not a good deal. We've seen him do it before. People say, "Oh,
Right.
that wasn't a success." That's the art of the deal. He doesn't like the deal. He doesn't think it's going to have any kind of duration or teeth to it. He'll walk away and say, "I'll come back when you're like a teacher in grammar school when all the kids are talking." And I was like,
And
"I'll wait."
one other point on that, Scott. When he came out just recently and said we have to do away with mail order ballots, which Jimmy Carter studied some years ago. He convened a little panel, and they concluded that that way of voting was the most susceptible to corruption.
Oh, of course.
So unless Congress, where we have a majority, let them do something with that majority, unless they vote no more mail-in ballots, no more election machines, paper ballots.
No, I agree.
On the day of the election, everybody goes, with the exception of the military, and their ballots should be counted. But with the exception of the military, one election day, you go in, paper ballot, it's the cheapest, it's the most reliable, it's
Yep.
the least corruptible, and maybe that will give us a successor to Trump who will be
Yeah.
able to stand up for what Trump's
That's
putting
true.
in place.
Well, I do want to.
And no hanging chads or hanging.
I want to,
flags.
guys. I want to emphasize because no, it's true. I want to emphasize. So the first lady Melania Trump, she came up in the first term of the Be Best, which talked about
Yes.
cyberbullying and helping the children. And of course, as a mother, she thinks about the children. And she wrote a very intimate letter to Vladimir Putin, after the summit or with her and her husband, about the problem with the missing children. And I feel like it really opened up even a more kind of unilateral agreement and deal for Putin and Zelensky to sit down to the table. And then what did Zelensky do? He was like, oh my God, Melania wrote a letter to Putin. Wife, now it's time for you to write the same letter to Melania. And I'm going to give it, and I'm going to see President Trump, and I'll give it to President Trump to give to Melania, which I thought was very interesting. He totally copied.
But imitation's the highest form of flattery.
It's
So
true.
I'm not against the fact that she did that. That's a worthwhile thing to do to cement ties. It's got to be more than words. It's got to
Right.
be
But no, I'm
actions.
saying that I feel that Melania did that on purpose to bring the piece together. And that's what people need to understand is Melania, who's actually has a very, when Putin first met Melania, they had a very strong connection. Putin made it his business to sit next to her at that evening dinner because they both speak German together. As you know, for my audience, Melania speaks 5 different languages fluently. German is one of them, and Putin also speaks German fluently. So they're both sitting at the dinner table together, speaking German. I always say the concept, speaking each other's language. And Putin knows beautiful women. He's married to a beautiful woman. He was married to a beautiful woman. His current girlfriend is very beautiful. So he loves beautiful women. So he's sitting next to this beautiful woman. And for Putin to get, a letter from this beautiful woman, it really reemphasized again, how important that this peace needs to be. And, my question to you, Deplorabella, as a mother, you're watching these children and they're missing. And I said earlier in the segment, there's a lot of human trafficking, sex trafficking, especially in Ukraine. With Melania Trump's letter, do you feel that it made a big difference in Putin and Zelensky coming to the table?
I don't know if it will translate into that. I think Trump and his use of the flyover bomber sent a clear message. I think Trump's relationship with Putin is already fairly solid. What this does is it gives Putin an opportunity to emerge on the world stage as something other than a KGB murderer.
Right.
It gives him a chance to emerge as a humanitarian, as someone who shares a concern. And if he makes a concession and is prepared to release some or all of these captured hostages, these children, it puts him in a position which improves his public relations. I don't know how well he has to play. It may play well in Russia. It will play well in the rest of the world. And it will be another indication that Melania also has some chops. Compare her with stupid head, what the heck was her name? Mrs. Obama.
Oh,
No, not
God.
even Dr. Jill. Mrs. Obama. Yeah, who sent out bring
Michael.
back our girls. That was her hashtag. That was her sole response. In the interim, thousands of Christians have been killed by Islamists all over Africa. She's done nothing. She said nothing. She doesn't care. She never cared. Melania has always been not only beautiful and intelligent, but concerned about the well-being of human beings around the globe, and particularly children. She is authentic.
Yeah. Scott, I want to change the subject a little bit because we only have about 5 minutes. I want to talk about the safety and security.
Can I just sound off on that for
30
seconds? I mean, I'm not sure what kind of letter Michelle Obama would have written to Putin unless it was about Putin. But Trump and Melania set the stage and the example of their stance on human trafficking in the United States. Imagine Putin trying to take Biden seriously with all the hundreds of thousands of missing children due to his open border.
That's very true. Yeah.
Anyway,
no,
that's
but
what
Scott, I
want
to change the subject a little bit. Focus on what Trump is doing in D.C. And I can tell you, as a single woman, as a reporter, being down in D.C., walking down there late at night is really not safe. And for the first time in years, President Trump has made D.C. safer again. I wouldn't say it's 100% safe, but it's getting better. What say you, Scott, about what President Trump is doing to make D.C. safe? And the fault again goes to the mayor. It goes to Mayor Bowser for allowing her city to be in ruins and have pro-Hamas attacks and attacks on the young Jewish couple that was murdered. That is on her watch.
Yeah, and the left thinks it's just about big balls getting assaulted. It's not. They talk about going to a French restaurant in a prime area with all kinds of security, but they're not going to go in the hood and the areas where they don't even know exist, and certainly not without their armed escorts when they want everyone else to surrender their Second Amendment rights. I think it's great. I mean, I worked down in the Pentagon in FY14 for a year, and I took the metro, and I saw things declining even during that time. It's far worse now. I think it should be a template for other cities around the country. And again, the left will say, well, look at the cities in these red states. The cities, the police jurisdictions and the crime there is really not the responsibility of the governor. Not until you have, essentially state martial law and National Guard troops being called in, which also needs to happen. I mean, what are they complaining? You have white liberal women
National Guard there already. That's already been
right. You have white liberal women complaining about a police state, and the Black community lauding this and being highly appreciative, because every single one of those kids that Judge Jeanine Pirro was talking about, the 45 kids that were killed, every single one of them was Black. It's not these women's soccer kids that they're worried about getting caught in a crossfire. I know I used to go down to Baltimore with my son for medical appointments, and I was still on active duty. I'd have my body armor on him, like covering him as we're driving through to get to Hopkins. And I don't want that in any city. So I think it's a great, just let him succeed in spite of all of their kvetching and everything, and let Swalwell complain about burying conservatives under, that's
Of
a
course it
threat,
is.
under the Capitol.
Well, Scott, I want to ask your mom
Maybe he'll
something
do
really
that.
quick. It's only a couple minutes. So,
Yeah.
Deplorabella, as you know, Baltimore City and Baltimore County is some of the most dangerous places right now in Maryland. And, President Trump said, why is he allowing his state and Baltimore City and Baltimore County to go into ruins? People have said that he should call the National Guard to make Maryland safer again, to make Baltimore County and Baltimore City safe again. And of course, Governor Westmore is in denial, and he says homicides are down and the crime is down, but it's really not. And the people are telling him, no, dude, you're a liar. And these are Democrats and independents and the Black community that are telling him he's a liar.
This is the deliberate degradation of the quality of life in blue cities and blue states, which have been subjected to 50 to 80 years of Democrat rule, one party control. And they fudge the records. They downgrade felonies to misdemeanors to make it look like their crime rates aren't so bad. A lot of major municipalities fail to submit their statistics to the FBI so that the federal rates look lower.
Correct.
It's all a game they've been playing. They've been playing it, as Scott pointed out, with the lives of those decent Black and other minority groups stuck in these hellholes. It's like being in Mogadishu, but you don't have body armor. They can't have guns to defend themselves, but the criminals all have guns. And somehow Democrats never prosecute the Blacks who use guns in carrying out their crimes. Even though there were gun enhancements available for sentencing, they don't sentence them. A slap on the wrist, if that, parole, and you're out. You're unleashed on the citizens. Democrats do not represent law-abiding, tax-paying citizens. They have degraded what it means to be a citizen by trying to do away with the difference between citizen and an illegal alien. They use language in a way to deceive. It's part of their deliberate effort to downgrade our way of life, to destroy law and order, to interfere with our security, to create carnage and chaos. They are corrupt. They have turned the spigot of taxpayer dollars, no matter what they call the bill. All the money has gone to them and their cronies and their NGOs and their nonprofits that pay for their campaigns and that pay for these professional protesters in the streets who are creating insurrections wherever they go. I hope that Trump will take the policies that he is now pursuing to take back the nation's capital, the District of Columbia, which, by the way, was never capable of self-rule. Not when you have a 7th and 8th wards, where most of the crime comes from, that are majority Black, where the subculture, where the lack of fathers in the homes, where the glorification of baby mamas made it possible for 80% of the population of those wards to prey on the rest of the decent Blacks stuck there and the whites who dare to work in DC, or the people of all groups who would like to go there as tourists. As a mother, as a grandmother, I have not been willing, as an individual myself, I have not been willing to go to the nation's capital and enjoy all it has to offer for years because of the conditions there. I'm hoping that by our 250th anniversary, the work of people like Scott, people who gave to the military, to law enforcement,
Amen.
who continue to be active in politics, in speaking out, as you do, Alexandra, to try to inform and enlighten the American people. A vote for the Democrats is not a vote for democracy. It is not a vote for a constitutional republic, for Western civilization, or for Judeo-Christian culture. It's a vote for revolution. And I, for one, say, ma'am, dammy, you should be also run, not Zoran Zitnandami. And the rest of the Marxists running for office should all be voted out. And in fact, why don't they go join Richard Gere and these other treasonous expatriates in other countries. We sure as hell don't need them here.
Or Greta Thunberg that can join her under the treads of a tractor.
How dare you? How dare you?
Well, guys, on that note, we do have to go. But thank you guys so much for coming back. Just want to reemphasize, everyone, tomorrow night we have Scott as our special guest on The Pulse tomorrow night from 8 to 9 p.m. He's always enlightening. We love having him. Hopefully, we won't have any free Palestine people that are commenting on the show. But we encourage everyone to join Scott. Yeah, he'll take care of it. We encourage everyone to join Scott and us on The Pulse tomorrow night from 8 to 9 p.m. Thank you guys so much for being on with me, and we will be right back after the break.
Welcome to America's Pulse Network. This is APN's very own White House correspondent, Alexandra Levine.
This is so amazing and miraculous. We've never had a president in the history of our nation doing this, and we hope to God that he continues doing this forever and ever. Thank you. God bless you, everybody, and God bless President Trump.
And God bless you.
Hello, everyone. This is Alexandra Levine with the America's Pulse Network. I am the White House correspondent right here in the heart of D.C. as President Trump is celebrating 250 years of America and the military.
Subscribe and follow America's Pulse Network on the above social medias.
And hey guys, don't forget to go to rncstore.com/ALL. That's rncstore.com/ALL. That is my affiliate sponsor. We will have John Richardson on my show this Thursday night, and he will talk more about his wonderful supplements, what he's doing. And as I told you, apricot seeds are amazing for preventions of cancer, for the skin, for immunity, for hemorrhoid reduction, and so forth. So please, guys, go to rncstore.com/ALL. Use the discount code ALL. If you don't put ALL, you don't get the discount code. It is 10% off your entire purchase. Of course, the more you spend, the